Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Springer, owner of Kelly's Choice Nutritional Company, and I am beyond excited for today's presentation because we have the amazing Marie Krane with us, who is the founder and owner of Tomato Bliss. So what is Tomato Bliss? Well, I got to experience the amazing Lotus Farm back in August, I think, right, Marie? I think it was back in August. And to go to the farm, and it's in Southwest Michigan, and Marie's going to tell us all about regenerative farming because today is April 1st. And all of April is going to be Earth Month. So we're going to be talking about the earth and education around the earth and these the impacts that these different food companies have on the earth. So I'm going to make Marie the host right now so she can share her screen. And we're going to kick it off of learning all about this type of farming, what she did, how this came to be, and also about Tomato Bliss. So take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for that great introduction. And we met last August, and your insight into the importance of biodiversity was really encouraging and helpful. And what I aim to do here is I'm really just going to share my story, and I think it reveals, well, we'll see what it reveals. Hopefully it's interesting and useful to you guys. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start to share my screen. And let's see if that's working.
Yes.
There it is. So hi everyone. I'm Marie Krane. I'm the founder of Tomato Bliss. I'm an accidental food entrepreneur and really farmer. I started working. I worked with a group of community activist artists, and we were in the city of Chicago, and we loved heirloom tomatoes, and we were doing social science experiments, trading plants for pomes and doing heirloom tomato seedling exchanges throughout Chicago. We started that project in 2010, and by 2014, we were growing about 5,000 heirloom tomato plants all over the city of Chicago in food deserts, really, in these buckets on concrete sidewalks. Here's a little example of one of our heirloom tomato gardens. By 2014, the project was huge, and I thought, well, holy smokes, if I buy a farm, I'll have a lot more heirloom tomatoes to share. And I also, at that point, I grew heirloom tomatoes because in the grocery store, all the tomatoes in the pantry were one color. And I wondered why, and even in the grocery store, in the produce section, they were one color, so maybe two or three. Where were the heirloom tomatoes? So we started this, bought this farm, looked beautiful. This is the lotus flower pond, and it was idyllic. And I thought, it'll really be fun and easy to farm. And uh-oh, here we go. This is what the following spring looked like. It was essentially, other than the pond, it was a degraded soybean field. The earth was so degraded that water couldn't soak into the soil. And it was really kind of a mess, kind of like when we went to plant our heirloom tomato seedlings into the ground, we needed drills. It was concrete. And this is essentially the state of soil, whether it's been organically tended or conventionally tended. If it hasn't been tended in a way to tend to the soil, it's really hard work. So this was, if we go back for a second, and we had all this water, and conventional wisdom said, you know what, we'll just get the water off the property. We'll do drainage to get it off. Well, I started doing some research, and one of the first things we realized was important to do was actually to keep the water on the property. And so we started to dig these rock holes to keep the water on the property. Here is kind of about actually 2 years down the road, you can see that we have now a rock pit to hold the water, and we had built hoop houses, and we started to, by this time I knew that, you know, the challenge and opportunity was to rebuild soil, to make the soil work for us instead of against us. And that was, you know, the first step for regenerative on our regenerative farm was to look at the structure. So how to keep water, and then we put as much money as we could into trees and a certain type of tree. And this is turned into one of our fundamental ideas. We're looking for trees that have a lot of different uses. This, by comparison, is a decorative tree. It had been put in before we got there. This is fungus that is impossible to get rid of. It will spread and kill other trees. This is an ornamental plum, just gorgeous at the garden center, but it's ornamental. When I called the garden center, they said, oh, well, they're only meant to live 10 years anyway. So the idea was an ornamental tree is just beautiful. The trees we put in, had how many purposes could they serve? So your walnut tree is kind of the king of the regenerative farm. Why? It provides food, it provides shelter. If and when it does die, it can be used for furniture. It has many purposes. And that's one of the fundamental principles of how we run our farm. So here you can see we're starting to put in the trees and what the types of trees we put in, and are perennial. So they're on our farm. We have a commitment to perennial food in addition to annual food. So apples, aronia berries, even roses have a multifunctional purpose on their farm. They're beautiful. They produce food. They produce food for birds, winter interest. So decorative works for us. I'm not against decorative choices, but the question is, what more can plants do? And while we're on the subject of trees, what I thought were stumps, and when I first came to the farm, it was all about how to get rid of the stumps, and we're going to pour poison into the stumps to get rid of them. What I've come to learn is when we have a dead tree, we take down as little as possible. They're actually snags, and they are great for the wildlife. So even after life, the trees serve a long purpose. We keep now detritus. When trees fall, they stay where they are. That's another thing about regenerative, is the idea is not just regenerating the earth, but also regenerating the life of the farmer. And so doing activities that really have meaning and aren't just a waste of time, like dragging stumps or detritus from one place to another, burning it, taking it off property. That's wasted energy as far as we're concerned. So that holds true even for this is what our part of our farm looks like now. When I first came, I would have probably cut down this grass in the fall because it doesn't look great. It turns, of course, into another purpose. It provides shelter and food for birds during the winter. And then when we cut it down in the spring, we leave the detritus where it is. So we let nature do the work. So our farm in Southwest Michigan is surrounded in all directions by conventional farming. This is what a neighbor's farm looks like. They are incorporating, this is their soybean year, their crop rotation. A closer look, you can see they planted corn the prior year. And for all I know, they could be using organic inputs. Organic inputs are pesticides, they are herbicides, and they are fertilizer, none of which are really serving nature. So they are certainly better than chemically derived inputs. At the same time, they're not working with the ground. So the idea, I had heard of crop rotation. Well, that's a sustainable solution. We have found that going a step further, let's get it right, a few steps further. One is that we keep the soil alive is the guiding principle of how we farm. So here you can see the neighbor's farm in the background. This is, late winter, their soil is not alive. On our farm, the dark green is where we're actively cover cropping. The light green is where we haven't regenerated yet. And then inside our hoop houses, we're always growing. So this is a picture inside the hoop houses in February. We have half of it is in cover crop and half of it is in food that we can eat. You can see the color of the soil. We are at our farm a full no dig farm. So we go beyond no till and we bring in compost. This means, so another thing that hurts soil is the tillage. It's like piercing the skin of the earth. So we don't do that anymore. We actually we put compost on top and plant into the compost. So the soil below grade is not touched and is filled with microbial life. Oop, there's some microbial life. I didn't know this. I think it's interesting. Mushrooms are a sign of life. And our farm, Kelly can attest to it, is covered with mushrooms everywhere. Went backwards there. Now getting closer or, kind of into kind of more specifics. These are all what I would call pretties. We have daylilies here and other, other decorative things, all of which are edible. So these are perennial edible plants. So when we now choose to put plants in, we ask, well, what purpose does it serve? And I love the perennial edibles. That's the least amount of work I have to do. So here it is, kind of year one when we just started planting the perennials. And really, I'd say another fundamental principle for us is instead of a monoculture, we have biodiversity. And I'm just now going to, as I talk about this, one thing that makes biodiverse farming an easier way to farm without inputs is we're not creating huge targets for pests and disease. So if you can imagine 30 acres in one crop versus 30 acres in diverse crops, the pests and disease can't find it. We're not creating a target for the things that, hurt the success of the farm. So these are, sorry, I keep going back and forth. Even within, and this is we're getting to the tomatoes, but this is within salvia, for an example. So instead of, you have your 3-6-9s or you plant one type of salvia, we always go to how many types of salvia could we plant. And here, these are some of them edible. They're definitely pollinators. I think they're pretty. They support this in there. I think I have some hyssop in here, so that's something we can make tea out of. We have alliums, which are your onion family, and we have lots of different varieties of them. And that turns out also herbs are deer deterrent. So we have swaths of allium all around the farm. Definitely a multi-purpose plant here. Now we can start to see what the farm is looking like. And sure enough, we built it and the monarchs came. And this is mountain mint, lots of things that self-seed. It takes care of itself. I rarely spend time weeding. And then the birds came, the butterflies are coming. We have, these are butterfly weed. You can see the pests that are living on it. This is our version of pesticides. So we have spider webs all over the place. Birds nested. These are wild turkeys, spiders. Then, I have lots of ideas about, what are beautiful, what will really, I call them guerrilla plants, what will grow on their own. They don't need a lot of tending. And they serve multi-purposes. So here, lots of butterfly weed. This is what our farm looks like in January in the Midwest. So really still filled with life, lots of bird food. And then just getting back to the farm, these are photos now from last year. You can see that rock hole is almost completely covered over with gorgeous greenery, but still collects water so we don't have to irrigate. And here's our farming practices. We have a very small prop house where we are growing about 5,000 tomato seedlings, and we grow about 200 varieties of tomatoes. We also grow varieties of cucumbers. So whatever crop we choose to grow, we grow a lot of different varieties of it. So now we get to see the pictures of the gorgeous tomatoes. And really what we find is that the flavor profiles of not just your purple tomatoes, your yellow tomatoes, oh, that's it. And that, they're just, they're beautiful. They taste really different and give a lot more nutrition than, just single variety tomatoes. So that's the story of our farm, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share it. And I'll just run backwards through the slides as we continue to talk.
Thank you so much, though. I mean, so being able to be out on this farm was unbelievable, of the beauty, as you can see from the pictures of the flowers and seeing the tomatoes. But one of the things that really got me was the way that these farming practices are done and how different it is from conventional farming that we're used to in the US. And part of the product of getting into Tomato Bliss and talking about what this product is, something that Marie said really hit home to me, that this product can be on the shelves, cannot be on those middle shelves without having any preservatives. So do you want to talk a little bit about that too, Marie? Because I think as a dietitian and talking about the food product of what came out of this farm, what is the difference between this tomato soup and anything else out there?
Right. So thank you for asking that, Kelly. And it really, what we see is that there's a surplus of biodiversely grown tomatoes and other vegetables for that matter. And the question for us was, how can we extend the shelf life of the heirloom tomatoes and these special tomatoes without, in a way that keeps them more like the produce aisle than the pantry aisle. And so our soups don't taste like your traditional cream of tomato soup. Our soups are made from about 80% tomatoes, and then we use vinegar and a low process. So they're not highly processed tomatoes. They're roasted and mixed with roasted with vinegar, a little olive oil, salt, pepper, biodiversely grown onions, garlic, some, and some nice flavor, we like our globally inspired flavors, and that's it. So it is a product that we don't have to use preservatives. We believe that the flavor of all the exceptionally grown tomatoes or regeneratively grown heirloom tomatoes, that is enough to make the soup, our products, delicious, versus when right now almost all canned tomato products are made from reconstituted tomato paste from tomatoes that have been modified to increase yields and transportability. So they've taken the flavor out. So instead of having flavor in the fruit, people add sodium, right? So that's number one. So our products are less than 10% daily value of sodium versus typical is 35%. And they'll add flavoring and thickeners to actually give a certain mouthfeel that we've really gotten used to, but ours, we don't need that because the flavor of the biodiversely grown fruit is exceptional and delicious. So we don't need to add things to make it taste good or anything like that.
It tastes so unbelievable fresh. Like it just tastes like you're truly getting the picture that you see there. You taste it in this soup. It's absolutely delicious. And then also, will you tell a little bit about, I have in front of me the Clarified tomato broth. Will you talk a little about that? Because we did a really funny post for you for social media and kind of using it as a recovery drink, but will you talk a little bit about how you make that Clarified tomato broth?
Sure. So, remembering that we were all about saving heirloom tomatoes from extinction. And right now, just a fun fact or scary fact, a compelling fact is that in 90% of our commercially grown tomatoes, 90% come from 25 seeds, which means we've essentially lost diversity in terms of tomatoes. Heirloom tomatoes are essentially extinct. So the question is, well, what can we make with heirloom tomatoes that will, it can really be made with heirloom tomatoes? And heirloom tomatoes are, by and large, they're extremely juicy. So we were inspired by a recipe that Charlie Trotter, a big restaurateur in Chicago, made in the 90s. He called it tomato water. And what we do is we juice the tomatoes, and that's an easy thing for heirloom tomatoes, not so easy for your supermarket or grown to be processed tomatoes, which are really don't have a lot of juice. We juice them, and then we go through a process, minimal process, nothing high temperature retort or any of that. Then we double filter it to get out all the solids, and where we wind up with what we call clarified tomato broth. It's like a tomato consomme, and it has a consistency of water, but it's 100% tomato juice. And we put about at least 30 varieties in each batch of that. And it's exceptionally fruity and clean tasting versus it's a funny thing. I could not stand either tomato soup or tomato juice. And I'd save my no thank you. I was allowed a no thank you a day till dinner time in case either of those were going to be served, because I could not stand them. I've come to learn, like, your traditional conventional tomato juice is a highly processed thing where they're trying to make the particulate and the stick together so it doesn't separate. We've gone kind of the completely opposite way. We take out all the particulate, and so you're just left with the clean juice. And that's our clarified tomato broth. I think you're muted, Kelly.
Oh, so it's amazing also as a dietitian of the nutrients that you're getting in this broth. So when we're talking about nutrition value of these heirloom tomatoes, I mean, just in this broth in one serving, you're getting vitamin C, vitamin A, calcium, iron, fiber, which is my favorite word, but you're getting all of that in this broth. And you can also use this broth, and this is something, and even the soups, you can use them in other recipes too. So my husband made this amazing dish the other night and used the soups in a recipe. So it's amazing of how diverse these products are, but also how dense in nutrition. So calling them truly superfoods.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we've all been taught eat the rainbow, right? And so what makes Tomato Bliss products different is that they're made from a whole rainbow of tomato flavor, of types of tomatoes, and there's the data to back it up, that makes for a much more nutrient dense product than your single variety tomato product. And we imagine that the same would be true if we were making onion soup, putting in a whole diverse types of onions. Like, bringing biodiversity into the farms can translate directly to bringing diversity into our diets. And that's a thrilling idea, I think, because it instead of taking kind of the state of the food industry as the big problem, there's a big opportunity to solve and for the future here.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So basically, I want to let people know where to purchase this. And I know that we can get this on Amazon. And right now there is a special code, and we're going to put this into, when we share this out on YouTube, we're going to put it out. But we can definitely get this on Amazon and do a code KC Bliss 1, and you're going to get a discount for this. And it's just, again, it's such an amazing product. So coming up, we're actually on Tuesday evening, we're working with our amazing Dr. Voss from Syracuse University and talking about iron deficiencies and red blood cell making. So this is, we're getting into biochemistry, but a product like this, when you think about real food and think about that you're getting copper and B vitamins and iron and vitamin C, these are the combination of nutrients and vitamins that actually make red blood cells and help us to transport oxygen. Like, I know we don't think about food that way, but we need to start thinking about food that way. We need to start thinking about foods that are actually going to heal our body and give us everything that we need, to help our bodies through this. So I think that our message at Kelly's Choice is real people promoting real food. And that's why we are such fans of you and what you're doing and of Tomato Bliss, because it's a real food that is giving your body nourishment.
Right. Exactly right. And that idea of food as medicine, and that doesn't make it so appealing, but when people taste our products, it's an easy, you don't need a spoonful of sugar, and we're 100 no sugar added, but it really, I'm a believer. It can really work. No, I like the soup for breakfast, and it's some people let us know they just chug it straight from the fridge.
I do. That's my thing. So I have it in my office. I drink it right from the jar, and it is in a glass jar, so it's so nice that way too. I keep it right there, and I drink it out of the jar. There's no spoon required. So it's absolutely delicious. It's so nutrient dense. And again, you can find it right at Amazon. Use that KC Bliss one so that you can get a discount on this. But this is just such a quality product. The taste is amazing. So many ways to use it. And I just really appreciate you educating all of us on what this type of farming practice is, the difference. I think we're going to see more of it. I just saw a post yesterday that this is where we're trending, and it's not a trend. It's where we should be going for our earth. It's how we should be living. So this is something that I'm hoping this trend stays for the rest of my life and into my children's life. So thank you for taking the effort. I know how much went into this farm. I know the hours and the digging and everything else that you've done. And I just appreciate you being on today. And thank you to our audience. And check us out at Kelly's Choice _nutrition. And then definitely check out Tomato Bliss. You're going to see a lot of fun posts with Marie and me together doing some fun things. So thank you so much for being on today, and hope everyone has a wonderful Earth Month. Thanks so much, Marie.
Thanks, Kelly.
Bye, guys.
Bye. We're still recording? No.